Hello, Facebook land. How the heck are you tonight? Who, who is coming in to watch? Let's see what's coming in. Who we got? Let us know where you're watching from and what you got going on this weekend. It's episode 99, people. We are getting so close to the century mark. 100, episode 100 is coming up very, very soon, next week to be exact. And we have Tia Smith from Santa Barbara, California, back as usual, coming on in. Everybody else, as you're starting to watch here and you're coming in, let us know where you're watching from. We have Justin Ponsor here tonight to be able to talk to you about Sled USA, the background of it, what he's done with it, what he's got planned for it. And then he's got a pretty cool story he wants to share with all of you guys as well. And then I've got, just for all of you guys so you know, I've got a special announcement at the end of this episode that I want to share with all of you guys. About a month ago, I shared with you guys that I had a special phone call that came to me. Tonight is the night. I'm going to reveal what that special phone call was, but you're going to have to wait till the end of this episode. So while you're rolling in, let me tell you a little bit about Jon Ferrian Live and what it's all about and what we do here every week. Every single week on Sunday night, 7 p.m. Pacific time, we're coming to you here live on Facebook. And by the way, you can also watch the episodes on YouTube as well. Live Large Universe is there. Got all the episodes dropped in and ready for you to watch. Bottom line, every week we're talking about snowmobile education, safety, growing the sport. We're here to expose the awesomeness that is the snowmobile world. So tonight we want to share with you a little bit. We are going to do week 2 in a row of share and win contests with these 5 pivot knee guards from Fly Racing. Let me shut the music off while I tell you a little bit about these suckers. Man, guys, I've been wearing these things this whole season. These Fly knee guards, guys, like I've never ridden with knee guards before. I've had like padded knee pads in my snow pants and stuff, but this is the first year that I've legit started riding with knee guards. And oh my gosh, guys, like I've tried them in previous years with other brands, other companies, and I could never get used to them. They were uncomfortable. They were in the way. They felt awkward. They just wouldn't fit my legs. I've got like tree trunks for legs sometimes. These knee guards, guys, they fit well. They're comfortable. You forget you're there. I've got local people, friends that have been riding with me that have seen them. People who've bought them since I've been talking about them a little bit, and every one of them says, as advertised, we've been wearing them, and they've been having a great time with them as well. And you, just for watching the show, sharing in the show tonight, you can share and win and get in on these knee guards. So again, follow Fly Racing on Instagram, Fly Racing Snow on Facebook as well, and you have all of that awesomeness that's there for you. So without any further ado, I want to bring you our buddy Justin Ponsor from Sled USA. I'm going to unveil him here in 1 second. Here we go. Justin, welcome to the show, buddy.
How's it going, John?
Awesome. I'm living large, buddy. You know what that's all about.
Right on. Heck
Just
yeah.
in case anybody forgets what Live Large is all about, Live Large is, man, make the most of every day, maximize every day, live life to the fullest, and make a difference in this world. So that's what we're here for, to live large and just share the goodness that is the snowmobile industry.
Love it.
Awesome, awesome. So Justin, you and I met for the very first time at Heydays.
Heydays, yep.
Heydays. So I had seen Sled USA. I knew a little bit about it. It was on my radar. But until I met you face to face, as we were kind of intermingling with some friends, there were some mutual friends of mine that were hanging out at your booth. I came over and said hi, and they introduced me to you and you to me, and the rest is history. So here we are. What is it? September. We got October, November, December. We're in January. 4 months later here after Heydays, we're finally doing the show together. I had been booked out for 4 months straight at the point that I ran into you, and this was our first open slot that we had to be able to bring you on. So I'm super excited to have you on, my friend.
Right on. Well, I'm excited to be on. Thanks for having me.
That's awesome. So was Heydays your first Heydays, or have you been a long history of going to Heydays every year?
This last September was Sled USA's 3rd year
Nice.
having a booth at Heydays, but I've been going to Heydays since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
It's only about
Me too,
5
man.
hours from where I grew up, so
Yeah,
gotta make
that's
it
awesome.
up there.
Because I know you're in Iowa. You're in where? Northeast Iowa. Tell everybody about where you're at, basically, where you're based out of.
Yeah, it's northwest Iowa. So I grew up in Storm Lake, Iowa. It's kind of over by Sioux City. And then I moved to Sergeant Bluff, which is just right south of Sioux City, for college. And that's where I'm at now when I'm not snowmobiling. So
That's awesome. So I'm going to ask the smart Aleck question. I'm going to ask the smart Aleck question that I know half the country wonders is like, do people in Iowa snowmobile?
yeah, we do. There's lots of snowmobiles. I was actually this weekend. I just got back from the Winter Games in Okoboji, Iowa, and it's this big. They have a bunch of tournaments and broom ball and all kinds of stuff. Lots of snowmobiles, racers, and stuff like that. So it's good to see everybody out in Iowa on sleds.
That's awesome. I've actually, believe it or not, living in Minnesota most of my life, I think I've been in snowmobiling in Iowa like one time before. One time there was this major storm that came through, and it was just happening right at the southern Minnesota-Iowa border. And we had gone down and just started ditch banging, and I think we ended up in Iowa at one point in time. And there was drift
Nice.
6 feet deep, and it was crazy because the wind was blowing so hard when you're out in the open meadow, in the open fields and stuff that are out there. You got like grass in one spot and like 6 foot snow drifts in the next spot, like 10 feet away.
Yep.
It was kind of crazy.
Yeah, lots of ditch banging, and you just try to find where the snow blows to and go there and play with that. So
Exactly. Well, Justin, why don't you give everybody a little background on kind of who you are, kind of, what's your origins? You've talked a little bit about where you're from already, but, we'll get into all the snowmobile stuff here shortly. But outside of snowmobiling, just give us an idea of who you are, what you're about, kind of maybe your career path that you have in a professional life. And then we'll get into, how you got into snowmobiling, and then we'll dive into Sled USA.
Okay. So, like I said, I grew up in Storm Lake. Kind of a farm kid, I guess you would say, always looking for adventure. We'd be wakeboarding or doing something behind a boat, getting pulled behind something, behind a truck, just always looking for that adrenaline rush. And when I was 6 years old, my dad came home with a 1962 Skidoo, and that was our first sled that we rode around. And from there, I just got hooked, and that's how the whole snowmobiling thing started. And I didn't start going out like backcountry riding until I was about 13. Went on my first trip out to Wyoming. So that's kind of where that started out. But yeah, basically lived in Iowa my whole life, and then went to college in Sioux City, and I studied marketing, advertising, and business administration. Because I knew I wanted to start my own business. I just didn't know what type of business. And from there, my current job is it's called forensic data security. So we work for like Facebook, Spotify, Uber, and kind of update their data centers, I guess you would say. So I wasn't ever really like a computer guy, coming from like a farming background, but they kind of taught me everything I need to know on the techie side of stuff. So that's what I'm doing during the day, and then Sled USA and snowmobiling on the weekends and whenever I can.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, kind of suspicion confirmed that you're just like the rest of us. Most of us have a day job, quote unquote, a normal life, a real life, but we're all super passionate about this sport we call snowmobiling, and we all figure out our ways to get our fingers into it and, kind of make a difference in this sport. And, tell me a little bit more about that first trip out west when you were 13 years old. Was that a trip with your dad, with dad and friends, with friends? Like, tell us a little bit about that first trip and your experience getting out mountain riding for the first time. And I'm sure that was probably a big part of what hooked you deep into snowmobiling, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. That was the game changer right there. Yeah. We went out with my dad, my cousin, couple of my cousins, and basically kind of like our family and family friends. We all had sleds and went out there. And I don't know if, I think maybe some of us had mountain sleds, but I know at the time I was on a 2003 Arctic Cat F7.
Nice.
So you can imagine a little 13-year-old kid trying to get around in 6 foot powder with that, but I was getting stuck left and right, but it was a blast. And right when we got there, we came up to this like huge steep incline with just a bunch of trees. It was so steep. And my cousin Chad goes, "You ready? This is where we're gonna ride." And points to it, and he was kidding because it was like straight up and down. But I was just like, "Oh, what am I getting myself into?" But no, we started in the meadows, and played around in the trees a little bit. And it was a blast, and just kept going at least like a full week, if not 2 full weeks a year, until I was about 16, 17. Then I started to try to go more, and now I try to go every weekend or every couple weeks and put a lot of miles on the truck, living in Iowa, trying to ride all the time, but it's worth it. So.
Yeah, it's very similar to my first rides out west as well. I wasn't 13 by no means, but it was back in 2007. I took my first trip from Minnesota with a group of friends, and I was on a short tracker too. I was on a 2005 Skidoo MXZX 600 and put a little bit of a deeper lug track on it with a 121-inch track, and went out there and did my best to ride Cook City, Montana. And I'm sure you've been there by now, right? You've been to Cook City?
I haven't been to Cook City. I was just actually in Montana for the first time a couple weeks ago. I was riding at like Lion's Head and Two Top. So I haven't
Okay.
spent much time in Montana, but probably will in the next few years.
Yeah, not too far. If you're over in the West Yellowstone area, then Lions Head area, you're only maybe an hour and a half from Cook City, so it's not too far. Similar riding zones and stuff like that. But yeah, the steep and deep and riding a short track on the first trip, and yeah, same thing. Got hooked and fell in love with the sport of snowmobiling and mountain snowmobiling. I've been snowmobiling my entire life, and bottom line is, it just sucks us in once we get in there. And at some point in time, you figured out. Tell us a little bit about how the Sled USA thing came to be. I don't think it was it called Sled USA right away, or were you just goofing around on your phone? You told me a little bit about this. You were on a vacation somewhere, but yeah, kind of tee this up and give us a story of kind of the inception of Sled USA.
Yeah, so my first year of college, we were on winter break. I was just sitting at home. I didn't go anywhere or anything, and just playing around on my phone and on Instagram. And I'm like, I'm gonna make one of those Instagram pages, like the truck pages where I share people's trucks or but have it be snowmobiling specific. So I started doing that. Started posting like some pictures that I took, some pictures that my buddies took, and then people started to kind of start tagging us in their posts, so, or send us a message, hey, can you post this up for us? And yeah, so we'd post it up on there and just started to grow like that. Went through a couple different logos, and then it was about 2 or 3 months in, somebody asked, "You guys make any decals? Like, because I want to put a decal on my sled." I'm like, "No, but that'd be cool if we did." So I went out to a local decal shop and started making decals, and then actually turned Sled USA into an actual business, and started selling the decals, and did that for a while, and all we were selling was decals. And about another month later, somebody sends us a message and, "Hey, do you guys make any t-shirts?" No, but it'd be cool if we did, so went out and started making t-shirts and hats and just kept it rolling. People seem to like the page and have fun with it. People are interacting on there, making friendships. I'm seeing people go out and ride with somebody who they met they met through Sled USA somehow,
Yeah.
whether it be on a post or something. And so yeah, just kind of kept the momentum going.
Nice, nice. And so Sled USA exists on what platforms now? I think there's several of them out there that you guys are doing Sled USA on. Share with some of those and where they're at.
Yeah, so Instagram's the biggest, and it was the first. But then we made a Facebook page and a YouTube and a Twitter, and now we have TikTok, which is the new thing. So still trying to get the hang of that, but
Yeah.
it's pretty fun on there too. So.
Nice, nice. And so if you had to describe Sled USA to somebody, I know you've kind of touched on kind of a little bit of like what you've done and what you're doing with it too, but like how would you describe it to somebody? Like what is Sled USA? Like when you talk about the different pieces of it, you got the clothing and merchandise side, you've got the social media side, but if you had to describe Sled USA and kind of just, tell somebody what it was about and kind of what your goals are with it, give us the rundown of what you would say.
I would say Sled USA is more or less a community, of snowmobilers that come together online, share their stuff that they got last weekend, or talk about how excited they are to ride the next weekend. So I would say it's a community, snowmobilers that just are diehards for the sport. And then, we're a company, we sell mainly merch, hats, shirts, sweatshirts, all that kind of stuff, decals, koozies. And then we started selling like some safety equipment, like we're selling some tethers, some kill switch covers,
Nice.
and sled decks. We're a dealer for Durdex, so selling some sled decks and all kinds of stuff. So
Yeah. So it sounds like you're continuing to build partnerships with different companies as well as doing your own branding on some different things. So it's kind of cool. And, to some degree, I mean, what I've heard along this path so far, what you've described to me is that, you know what, you didn't know what it was when it started, but you just kept your mind open, your ears open, and you embraced whatever came. And
yeah,
my take is you're probably still in that mode. Like you've maximized what you have access to and what you've been doing with it, but you're still wide open to the path that it can go. And it can become probably many things in the future as it goes. But it's really become just a brand in the industry that's very familiar for a lot of folks. It's a place that they feel comfortable coming to the community, sharing their stuff, seeing other people's stuff, and knowing that they can experience the awesomeness that is snowmobiling, right?
yeah, yeah. Like you said, the path for it really isn't set in stone. We're just keep building the merch line, going to trade shows. We
Yeah.
always go to heydays, and maybe going to try to hit some more trade shows this year. But for the future, we'd like to have maybe like a destination somewhere where people can come and have a good time, and provide an experience that I was provided with when I was 13 and went out for my first trip and got completely hooked on it. So
Nice. Cool. So, and on the phone too, as we were talking about the process that you're going through too, you mentioned that you've kind of embraced the concept of ambassadors, right? And so you have a number of ambassadors around the country that are Sled USA ambassadors. And there's different organizations. I'll just throw it out there. There's a group like out in the East Coast called TNT Lady Sledders. I had the same concept of like, man, like what the heck is an ambassador of a group like this, right? Because yeah, it's a little bit about products and merchandising, but it's really more than that. And I think it's kind of cool the evolution that some of these ambassador programs have become. And I kind of throw this out there with the mindset that I've had actually people hit me up and said, like, hey, Jon, can we get Live Large ambassadors? Can I be a Live Large ambassador? And I've kind of thrown around
that's
the
awesome.
idea. And so I feed off of that, right? And I want to kind of hear your thought on what you've done with the ambassador program, TNT Lady Sledders, what they're doing with it. And, I kind of like, just like you, I like to steal ideas and make them as great as we can make them. And I think we're all in this together. And if I can steal some awesome ideas from you and turn a Live
For
Large
sure.
ambassador program, this might be the kickoff of a Live Large ambassador program if we keep the conversation going. So
There you go. That sounds like a plan. Yeah. So our ambassadors, they'll wear our merch, wrap it on the mountain, take pictures, videos of it, and then send it back to us. Kind of create content for us and for our website and stuff like that. And in return, we'll post their pictures and videos and stuff like that to get their personal rider brand name out there. And it's just kind of like a win-win for both sides. And then we also like to have some events. This 2 weeks ago, we were in Island Park, Idaho, and we had our third annual what we call like our team ride or ambassador ride, where we have like the ambassadors that basically helped start Sled USA. They were the first guys to kind of jump on board and start promoting it and everything. So we always find kind of a central location. First year was in Colorado, and we all come from everywhere and meet, have a house, and then just ride for a week. And second year was in Wyoming, and then Idaho this year. So just kind of fun to see everybody. And I mean, we see each other at the trade shows too, but it's fun to get to ride with everybody.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if we don't get to ride, what's it all about, right? So
Yeah.
cool.
Sure.
Hey, another thing you and I chatted about on the phone the other day was kind of the concept of, this thought process, which is, we're here on Facebook, the Jon Ferrian Live, the show, and, Live Large and everything we're doing here. Our major presence is actually on Facebook because it's where I've been the most familiar with. And it's a format and a platform that I found to be, at least used to be, and still kind of is, friendly from a live video standpoint and being able to do the shows the length I want to do them. It's all very supportive of that. But, something that I know myself, and I think a lot of people who watch this show, they know that Instagram is kind of the big deal now, where, as the younger generation comes up, it's a new platform, a new format. I mean, you being 25 years old, you're in the Instagram generation, right? Like usually it's 30 years and old and above, or kind of the Facebook generation, Instagram. And then now there's things coming like TikTok and stuff too, that's going to be even a younger generation behind us. And
Yep.
so if you could give us some of us Facebook users over here on this side of the world, some tips and tricks on how to drive success. Again, your face or your Instagram page in the sled community is top 5, top 3, maybe top, followers in the sled world as far as Instagram pages go. Remind us, how many followers do you have right now on your Instagram page, Sled USA?
We're getting close to 95,000, getting up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, that's the size of a large city. I mean, you start talking, Minneapolis, Seattle, St. Louis, like you got a lot of cities out there that are, 100,000 people out there. And that's a pretty sizable community that you have. And of course, every time they like it or share it or click it, their friends and family and everybody get to see it as well too. So your reach is obviously way more than just that 94,000 that you have now. But give us some thoughts on how you've been able to really drive and evolve the Instagram page, and any tips for people who are on Facebook of what they might be able to benefit from.
For sure, yeah. So Instagram, I feel like what I always tell people when I get asked this question is just be engaged as much as you can, like with your followers, with people who comment on your posts. Comment back, like their comment, like other people's posts, and comment on theirs. The more you, a lot of people will talk about like leaving a business card out there. So say you're trying to grow your business on Instagram, or even if it's your personal rider page. Every time you comment on somebody's post, that your name and your business card is left there. And even liking somebody's post, it's going to get in their notifications, and they might click on your page. What's this about? And give it a follow. So I would say the main thing is just staying engaged with your audience, and not only with your audience, but other people's audiences too.
Yeah. And then you had shared with me too that a lot of the content that you share on that Instagram page, a lot of it is yours, but actually probably the majority of it is you sharing stuff from other folks there. And I shared with you that, like it wasn't obvious to me how you can do that. Like, how do you share somebody else's post into your own page to kind of share it out and give them credit for it? And you had a cool tip about that
Yeah.
too. Why don't you share that with everybody?
Yeah, that's a kind of a confusing thing from a Facebook user coming to Instagram, is that there's not like a share button. You can send a post to somebody in like a private message, but to actually share somebody else's post on your page, Instagram doesn't really let you do that unless you like screenshot the picture and repost it. Or what I do for Sled USA is when somebody tags me in a post wanting me to repost it, and we're going to, then what I'll do is I'll use a reposting app. So you can go to the App Store, and there's all kinds of different Instagram repost apps, and it'll give you step by step what to do once you have the app installed, and then basically click a couple buttons on the post that you want to repost, and it'll just pop up into like a new post, and you can write whatever you want. Tag the person whose post it actually is, and then just post it.
Nice. Yeah, no, some great tips. I know I learned some things from talking to you the other night as well too. So that's great. So is there anything else? Because the kind of the final thing that I wanted to chat with you about tonight is that you had yourself a message of safety and awareness that, that's what the show's about. We love highlighting you and what you're doing to kind of grow the sport in a positive way, which is awesome. But we're going to shift gears a little bit and go to kind of a story of an experience that you had with some buddies once, and getting into the backcountry and probably getting into a little bit of trouble and some lessons learned from that. But before we dive into that, is there anything else that we missed that you want to highlight about Sled USA, or kind of your journey to get to where you're at? Maybe a little bit about, the future. What is the future of Sled USA in your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I guess right now a big thing we have going on at Sled USA is we're giving away a snowmobile. So we're giving away a 2016 Polaris 4K 800 155.
Yeah. Tell us more. You're giving away a free snowmobile. We want to hear more.
Yeah, so the winner can either pick the snowmobile, or they can pick $4,000 cash. So they kind of have a choice. But basically, every $5 you spend on the Sled USA website, or the company we're partnered with is 1780 Supply Co. So you go to their website too, and every $5 you spend on either of our websites gets you one entry to win. And then we have a sweepstakes agency that we hired, and they're going to run the drawing after Valentine's Day. So Valentine's Day is the cutoff.
That's awesome. So just going on the website and buying product and spending money, you're getting an entry in on the new, or the sled. Huh?
Yep. So
Cool.
See a cool T-shirt you like, and get the T-shirt, you might get a sled too.
Never know. Is this a running sled, or do I have to build it once I get it?
Yep, it's running. I've tested it out. It rips. It's stock, but stock sleds rip. So.
Awesome. Cool. Well, let's dive into your experience. So kind of give us a little bit of background on, what, when this happened, who you were with, and kind of, the events of the day that led up to you guys dropping into a drainage that you couldn't get out of for a while. So let's talk about that story.
Yeah, so it was about a month ago, and we were riding up at Buffalo Pass in Colorado. And it was our second day, or it's my second day riding with this group. A couple of guys I kind of grew up with. A few people were, it was maybe their second or third, fourth or fifth time out in the mountains, used to riding in Iowa. So we were just putzing around, having fun, playing in the trees a little bit. And then we got a late start that day. So when we were eating lunch, what we thought was noon was actually like 3. And I usually like to head back to the truck at like 3:34. So after lunch, we're riding around and stuff, and we drop into this ravine, this drainage, and we kept just making our way down. And I was looking at my map, and the topography of the map made it look like once you get to the bottom, it's going to open up, and you can kind of go off to the right and hit the trail and head back. And usually the map system I use, have you ever heard of the Venza maps?
I have, yep.
That's what I use for GPS to get around, and it's always been accurate except for this one time. So we're going down, and to where it looks like the topography, doesn't get steep anymore. Once we get down there, it's just a big drop. And, I didn't want to take everybody down there, especially because now it's starting to get dark. So I made the decision to, okay, well, this is going to suck for the people who aren't really used to tree riding, but we're going to turn around and go back up this drainage. And, it's already starting to get dark. I'm kind of getting worried, but you just, in a situation like that, you got to keep a positive attitude. And we slowly but surely made our way back out of there. Lots of stucks and people tipping over, but once we hit the trail, it was a sign of relief up at the top, and then made it back. And we got back to the truck at like a little after 10 o'clock, which is way later than I've ever stayed out back. I've never had to stay overnight. That was my closest to it though. But so I guess, yeah, I definitely learned from that, just make sure, everybody's skill level and where you can go and where you shouldn't go, and keep track of time too.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of keep rolling with some of the lessons learned, because the irony and the familiarity is that this is not a unique story, right? Like I could tell you a dozen times that different people over the years have told me this exact same story. Different drainage, different state, different time, different place, but the same story. And almost all of these stories usually end up with a late afternoon final drop into this fun little play area. That the things that a lot of folks don't consider is that, you might have that little bit of burst of energy that you're thinking like, oh, this is going to be epic. And you're probably up for a 30-minute rip. But the consequences sometimes in a situation like this turn that 30-minute rip turned into a 6-hour, craziness, right? And what happened,
Yep.
because it got a little crazier than you thought. No, exactly, right? And so you think about your physical, mental capabilities at that time of day. And if you've been riding hard all day, there's a good chance you're already pretty soaking wet from being sweaty and working hard and having fun. And you're probably getting close to exhausted your day supplies for food and water because you've been riding most of the day. And so even
Yep.
though there's that instinct to go hit that last rip, that last thing, sometimes there's a level of experience that, people who've been doing this a long time come to is like, yeah, it's not worth the risk, right? And, sometimes if you have the right group, the right team, the right place, you can do it and you can get away with it. But every once in a while, these stories come about. And, one of my best friends out in Wyoming lives in Casper. We did an episode with him, and very similar story where it was, a family ride. They were all having a good time. And they got back to the trailer and they were like, oh, it's still early. We should go up for a little rip through the trees over here, right? And they got up there and it turned into a 4-hour escapade, just similar to your story. And same
Yep.
kind of thing. Almost the stories are almost always the same. Oh yeah, we dropped into the trees and we hit this thing and we thought there was a way out the bottom and there wasn't, right?
Yep.
And so
All
yeah,
the way back.
yep. And so, a lot of it is just good planning ahead, and a lot of it is just awareness and consciousness of the time of day, the people you're with, the experience levels they have. And then, if you get into a situation like this where you're in a tough spot, when you're in the trees the way you've described, sometimes it maybe isn't quite this easy, but I'll just give somebody some quick tips of things where, if you're in a situation where you have a climb out of something, and you're trying to climb something. I know there's a lot of times where you're one after another after another. You're trying to make high marks. You're trying to get over the top of this bowl that you're trying to get to. Obviously, as you get more and more experience, if you can come at it from an angle and side hill up it, those are all great tips and tricks. But a lot of folks, maybe there's only one shoot out and you've got to make it up. And what a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of times if you can make a couple of runs up there and get like half, three-fourths of the way up there, but you find that you're really not making much headway, if you just go back down to the bottom and rest for a while, give yourself 30 minutes, 40 minutes to kind of just chill out, get your head together with you. What you don't always realize is once you've chewed up that snow now will, in some cases, depending on the conditions and the weather you have, set up a little bit, right? You think about it, like
Yep.
when you come back a few hours later, sometimes your tracks have frozen up a little bit or have gotten firm compared to where they were. And guess what? Now maybe that's a launch pad for you to kind of hit it again as a final time to get up and over the edge. But if you just keep
For
chewing it and
sure.
chewing and chewing it, you might be chewing away your only out route out. Whereas if you just go
Yeah.
up and hit it a little bit, and then one thing I've seen too is up in Belmont, British Columbia. This was something that a guide showed me one time, and it was just amazing because it's one of those moments where you're kind of like, why am I so stupid? Why didn't I think of this? Right? It's like we were dropping into a zone and it was a pretty epic, drop, and we had to come back out that way. And it was a zone that was already previously ridden, and there was a lot of really deep ruts, those big steep climbs, and everybody's just got their bars pinned, and sometimes it's turbos, 2 to 3 foot deep ruts, and you got to come back up this, and it's like, oh my God, what the hell am I thinking, right? Like, am I going to be able to get out of this? What he had us do is he had us stop at the top of the hill. He made everybody get their shovels out, and he made us all hike down, about 100 yards up and down that hill, and we literally groomed the hill with our shovels by hand to make sure that we had smoothed it out, we had, chopped it all up, and made ourselves an incredible launch pad to come back out later.
That's a good idea.
And it's something I'd never even considered before. I just like, okay, I'm going to drop
Yeah.
in, I'm going to come back up. But like to actually stop and like, smooth out the ruts and stuff that are there, it had never even dawned on me before. But when we did it, it was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I never thought of that before. Like that's so easy, you
Yeah.
know? And so
You always
just a
want to use
lot.
your sled, and you go in there, and you might get stuck or something, and it takes you even longer than if you were just to scoop it out. That's a good
Yep.
idea.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so, if you're the one making the tracks and the fresh tracks, that's one thing. But just literally just yesterday, I was out with a friend, and there was a couple of us. We got into a little bit of an area where we had to pop through the trees, and we had to go over some pretty good sized logs. And I made it over pretty easy the first time, but the second guy was a little newer. And as he went over the log, he kind of hit the throttle and he dug a big trench. And now the track width, there's a big hole there. And then my next buddy had to get over that, and it was off camber and stuff. And it was like, I literally went over there and just kind of stomped it all flat with my shovel and my boots and stuff, and made him a nice path to get over, and then he just popped right over, no big deal. But I had not done that, he would have been stuck too, and we would have been pulling on his sled. So sometimes a little preparation goes a long way.
Yeah.
So I got a comment here. Actually, going to read it. Actually, one buddy that was with me yesterday that I just made the trail for. It says, "Seems obvious, but I always forget Snow changes during the day. The fact that your track would freeze or set up is a great tip. Making the path out is a great trip too. Third guy was was awesome. That third guy was awesome. He's talking about himself. He's bragging about himself. So awesome. Appreciate it. So Justin, I think most of everything we wanted to talk about tonight on my checklist here we've covered. So is there anything else off top of your head that you want to dive into?
I think we pretty much covered everything we wanted to.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. So I do have a special announcement that I'm going to make for everybody here, but I'm actually going to have you drop off the call, and you're welcome to tune in if you want to go to Facebook and watch the end of the show here. You're welcome to. This is pretty abnormal for me, but I'll tee it up for everybody, and then I'll have you drop off here in just a minute. But about a month ago, I received a phone call from a pretty special person, and that person shared something that was pretty humbling to me and pretty special to me that I'm going to share with everybody publicly tonight. I posted kind of a cryptic message about I had this incredible call, and everybody's like, "What is it? What is it?" And they all were guessing, and nobody guessed what it was. And I'm going to announce it tonight of what it was because I had a special visit with this same person tonight. So, but before I drop you off, I do want to say thank you very much for coming on tonight, the show. Thanks for being part of the sled community and helping make it an awesome place. So.
Well, thanks for having me, John. I really appreciate it.
Sounds good. You can go ahead and hang up your end of the call here, and then I'm going to pop up an image here. And if you want to tune in for the end of the episode, feel free to jump on Facebook and check it out. So,
for sure.
All right, guys.
Talk to you later.
All right. Thanks, man. All right, everybody. This is now the end of the show. We just wrapped up with Justin Ponsor from Sled USA. And now what I want to do is I want to share a little bit with you guys about this picture that's here next to me, actually on this side over here. And the picture you're looking at is a picture of me and a lovely woman by the name of Kay Lloyd. So Kay Lloyd, her history and her background is incredible. Do yourself a future and type in Kay Lloyd snowmobiling or Kay Lloyd International Snowmobile Hall of Fame and that kind of thing. So Kay Lloyd lives here in the state of Washington, and she, all the way back in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, her and her husband, very similar to what my wife and I do, is we're very involved in the snowmobile community. These folks were as well. Kay's husband died over 12 years ago now, and she's been a widower by herself for quite a while. But as she's been involved in the snowmobile industry, she's done a ton of incredible things. She's been highly involved in local snowmobile clubs here in the state of Washington. She's been involved in the state association. She's involved at national level organizations like AXA, against the International Snowmobile Hall of Fame. Kay has also actually been a judge for the Clean Snowmobile Challenge that happens up in Michigan every year, where all the universities and colleges from around the nation that do this contest every year. So Kay is kind of like just the grandmother of snowmobiling, right? Like she's been around forever. And so Kay here in this picture was taken last summer, when I met her near Clay Ellen where she lives, and we snapped this picture with her. And again, about a month ago, Kay follows me on Facebook and knows what they're. And Kay reached out to me, and she texted me first, and she goes, "Hey John, give me a call when you get a second." And I thought, that's not that uncommon, because Kay has asked me at times to pick her up and bring her to a state association meeting or different places as well. But when Kay called me and talked to me, what she shared with me was that, and this, just going to know, guys, this feels super awkward for me to announce this on my own, but Kay's health is not in a place where she's able to get on here. I would have loved to have her on here personally and be able to share this with you. But Kay is in the process of nominating me, Jon Ferrian, for Snowmobiler of the Year for the International Snowmobile Hall of Fame. And I'm just going to pause there for a second because, let that sink in for a minute. So Kay herself was inducted into the International Snowmobile Hall of Fame back in 1999. And it was for her work involved in snowmobiling in the United States, across the country, doing land access battles, fighting battles. Kay is also the woman who nominated and was ultimately successful in making the snowmobile club that I'm part of and the snowmobile club that she's part of the International Snowmobile Club of the Year in 2017. So Kay has got a long history and a long level of credibility when it comes to these type of nominations and what goes on. And just to be clear, this is a nomination at this point, but Kay has asked me to pull together some information for her that she can submit on my behalf to be able to do this. And I just want to let everybody know that I am so honored to even be nominated and to be considered, and love and support what she's doing, what she's been doing, the fact that she's supporting what I'm doing, and trying to make this world and this community a better place is so much fun. I guess if you guys can't tell, I have so much fun every week doing these shows. I love seeing and hearing the change that happens in the communities as we talk about things. People have told me about avalanche classes they've signed up for, and equipment that they've bought, and things that they've changed in their life. So it's pretty incredible. It's a pretty awesome experience. And to take it one step further, I want to share with you that literally tonight I visited Kay in the hospital tonight. So hopefully I don't get too emotional here on you guys, but Kay was not feeling very well about 2 weeks ago, and she ended up getting admitted into the hospital. They found out that she had a tumor, a cancerous tumor in her colon that they had to go in and operate on. And Kay is now currently in the hospital recovering. So I met her tonight. I talked to her tonight. She's doing as well as can be expected, but she's probably not likely going to go back to her long-term home where she's been living for a long time. Once she's out of the hospital here, she's likely going to go into a long-term care facility. But this episode is dedicated to my dear friend, Kay Lloyd. She's awesome. She knows how to live large. She knows what life's all about serving the community and, doing what we do here. So bottom line, guys, I can't say anything more. I'm grateful, I'm honored, I'm humbled for this nomination, and wish me luck. The nomination process goes, and all nominations have to be in by the 1st of April. It sounds like over the summer months is when they will do all the final selecting. And then if I'm selected as the Snowmobiler of the Year for the International Snowmobile Hall of Fame, the induction ceremony, it sounds like, is next September. So it's still a long road ahead of us, but you know what? None of that matters. The nomination from somebody like Kay Lloyd is really as special as anything ever could have been for me personally. I'm grateful for it. I'm rambling now. So I'm just going to say, God bless everybody. Live large. Make a difference in this world every day. Have a great night. Signing off. Bye.